Okay, so FIgment had one of those game icons that stuck out to me in my Epic library. There was something creative and surreal about it, which kept pulling my intrigue. But without knowing what kind of game it was, it almost seemed to lean towards a kid's game, making me avoid it. But as curiosity always does for me, I finally had to know what this game was. FIgment is an adventure puzzle game set in an isometric 2.5D art style world. While there is some combat to be had, most of your focus will instead be on trying to figure out how to move on to the next stage. This game was surprisingly short. It only took me about 5 hours of gameplay to finish, and based on how quickly you can figure out the puzzles, might not even take that long. What FIgment does with this short period of gameplay though, is tell a fun, relatable story of overcoming fear and trauma, while trying to find yourself through all of it. And as I don't want to ruin too much of the story, up until about the last hour of gameplay, I really thought the game was allegory for overcoming depression. Instead, the direction taken was also quite interesting. The game starts off by introducing you to Dusty, the irritable, lethargic protagonist, wanting nothing more than to have a beverage and look at his scrapbook. He is rudely interrupted by his eventual sidekick Piper, and the Nightmare, who steals his scrapbook. Now with the quest to retrieve his scrapbook, the adventure through the mind begins. As in, inside the protagonist's mind. Dusty is just a mental projection of the other character's self. Pretty trippy concept for a game. I wonder what came first making this game, the art direction or the story, because the artwork is bizarre. Being that this is the subconscious mind's projection of what's happening outside, it is understandable why things are just a little kooky and off-kilter. Still, the artwork is uniquely beautiful. Then there was the music, which was also quite fitting to the atmosphere. The outer person's love of music is seen throughout the game. The music will change as you approach and interact with different objects. Based on your actions, instrument tracks will be added or removed. For example, removing a battery that is being used will cause whatever it is powering to no longer make sound. But whatever the battery is then used to power will make its own unique additions to the music. And even some of the puzzles are also musical in nature. For me, the puzzles in this game felt right around that point of challenging enough, while keeping from being too convoluted to be frustrating. Some can feel a little fetch-heavy, and there can be some annoyances, like having to backtrack to grab an item you thought you were done with. But there are plenty of creative ideas here also. One of them that really stuck out to me was having to play piano chords to unlock paths. Now I don't know if this was by design, but I did notice a few influences from, and also nods to, other games. For example, the wooden sword, the bird following you around talking to you.
Hey, listen!
Then later on in the game there were some Battletoads feeling areas. There was a part akin to the third level hover bikes, and another spot that reminded me of the unicycle level, with super strict directional controls to make it through. Or this could just be the fact of how touchy the controls could be. I would get hung up on a lot of the corners trying to walk on and off narrow paths. The tightness could be tedious. Luckily there was plenty of health to pick up throughout the game, so as long as you succeed after a failed attempt, you should be okay. And even in the few cases I did die, I was revived almost directly before whatever challenge killed me. I don't want to call it a negative, because I don't think it is the main focus of the game, but the combat was basic. There are 2 attack types, light spammy and charge up spinny, and then a combat roll. The combat encounters are pretty few, and out of the dozen or 2 fights you do have, the 2 winning tactics are spam flurry of light attacks, or dodge choreographed big swing and counter. The combat just felt a little forced to me, as if only added because they gave Dusty a sword. Overall, I would recommend FIgment. It is a pretty short game, but packed with plenty of character. Its surrealist art, mixed with a quirky musical direction, could easily stand on their own. Instead, we also get great storytelling, mixed with puzzles that are just brain-heavy enough, while not being overburdening. If you are looking for a game off the beaten path, give FIgment a try. Thanks for watching.